Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. And it's my first time to say hello to the Zoom world. And so welcome everyone to 2002. And thank you for joining us this afternoon as we look at another powerful topic. And we thought the topic for our series on dealing with loss and grief, the topic for this month should be a new year. And for those of you who had joined us in last year's series, you would have continued with us through the series. And this year we felt we would love to look at the topic of renewing the spirit, the self, with the spirit of well-being. And really the feeling that it's time to rejuvenate and renew our spirits, even if we have suffered a multitude of losses in 2001. And today we want to explore different designs to create a fresh start and carry the power of yesterday's cherished experiences with us. Because we understand that despite the losses, there has been a wealth of wisdom and power that has been gathered over 2002. And so let us use the experience of our cherished experiences of yesterday to help us move into the new year powerfully. And so who better to take this topic up with us than Nita? And Nita Makanji is an experienced meditation teacher coordinating the Brahma Kumari centers in Cape Town. And she is also, part of many interfaith gatherings and programs in the Western Cape. And she facilitates workshops and seminars around personal mastery, and also has a keen interest in exploring the dynamics of relationships with the intention of always creating harmony and well-being inside. And Nita, a quiet yet powerful being who works profoundly on herself to offer that then to the world. And so Nita herself had lost her mom in 2001, an amazing yogi, and she has had to personally journey with keeping her spirit powerful, no matter how close her loss may have been. And so welcome, Nita. And it's really wonderful to have you with us. And I look forward to today's topic, a new year. So thank you.
Thank you, Raksha. It's always a little odd to hear your own introduction, but thank you for those kind words. Yes, I think 2021, 2020 has been challenging perhaps, but also great gifts that it brought us. And, whether the losses, as Raksha mentioned, might have been in terms of relationships, it might have been in terms of financial challenges, difficulties, and, even just one's own health might have been challenged. And so I don't think it's finished to some extent. We're still seeing remnants of what happened in the past 2 years continuing, but that doesn't mean we have to remain trapped or fall victim to whatever might have happened or is happening on the external world. And so as I don't know if any of you make New Year's resolutions, because this afternoon's topic is New Year. And I used to then think about, okay, what are my New Year's resolutions going to be? And I've stopped doing that because I felt that I never had the capacity, maybe the interest to keep to it. So what I choose to do now, and it's been for a few years, maybe 10, 12 years, is I try and get a sense of a theme that I'd like to hold, something that I feel deeply or strongly about, something that I feel I want to experience as a focus for my year. And it's not so much about the things I want to attain or achieve, but the kind of spiritual wellness and well-being that I want to hold in my inner world, in my mind, in my heart. And I think at the core of it, and for the past few years, my feeling was that whatever it is that I do must bring me to a place of contentment. I feel contentment is an important quality to hold. And it's not always easy to hold that quality in the face of adversity, in the face of challenge. But I think something that the drama of life has taught us in the little past 2 years is that anything can happen at any time. And what is my ability to then navigate through whatever I'm faced with? Because one of the realities is that I can't change. I can't always change my external situation, my external circumstances. But I can choose how I respond. And so today, I'm just going to share some of those aspects with you, and I'm going to show my slideshow. I found this lovely image. I thought it was lovely. It doesn't look so great at first glance, perhaps. But really, today's session, looking at it from this perspective, is that the environment that we find ourselves in is as it is. And the only thing that I do have control over, and I have capacity, is to choose how I want to look at things, to choose what's the lens that I want to look through. And so in this image, everything looks desolate, no life. But if you look through the spectacles, everything looks so different. And it's not that when I look through the glasses, I'm denying what the reality of things is. It's not about that, but it's almost like when I change my perspective, when I choose to look through a different lens, it gives me a different perspective of what might be. And so today we're going to look at a little bit about perspective, about how can I position myself, or perhaps reposition myself, so that I begin to respond to things that come my way, good and not so good, from a more conscious awareness, and that it gives me the capacity to respond rather than react. Because most of our experiences in life is very reactory. And our reactions to some extent is quite deeply rooted in our past experiences, our beliefs, our understanding of certain things. And all of them might be from a very limited perspective. But in spirituality, and specifically the teachings of Raja Yoga, which is the core teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, the key elements, there are certain key elements that we aspire to inculcate and live by, which then I feel supports this process. And so let's get into today's session. So it's really about which way you look. So in this picture, the wind is blowing. The wind doesn't decide which way it wants to blow. It will blow which way it needs to blow. But whether I struggle with the way the wind is blowing, or whether I choose to embrace it, will create the experience that I have. And that happens with everything in life. And one of the things I was reminded of a day or two ago, I think, was that at every moment we have a choice. We can choose how we wish to respond to whatever comes our way. And it is a little bit like the story of, is the glass half full or half empty? And we might intellectually know that I need to look at things in a positive perspective. I need to find the lessons. I need to see the deeper meaning behind it. But quite often what we know on an intellectual level what we know based on what we've read, what we've listened to, conversations that we've had, doesn't always marry with what we want to feel and experience. In other words, there's the thought, and it's a determined thought perhaps, but then there isn't the capacity to feel the power that that thought holds. And so first step really is that I need to change my positioning. And so it's about what's the most effective way to reframe this. And it's something that I've learned many, many years ago from Daddy Janki's book, Wings of Soul. And she talks about in her chapter on forgiveness, and I've really, really embraced this, and it supported me in amazing ways, where she talks about how you can't forget past experiences. They're real, they're in our subconscious, they make part of our memories. And so we can't deny them. They're there. And there's good memories and there's some painful memories. Or experiences, not just memories or experiences. What we can do is see how do we want to reframe what has happened. In other words, what's the most effective way I can look at this situation from a place of detachment, and we'll talk about detachment a little later, to see how can I be most supported in this moment, so that the focus is not so much on what happened or the drama of life and what it's brought to me, but the focus then turns to the self to see where do I want to put myself so that I experience something different to what the drama is triggering in me. Remember, I said earlier that the drama brings things, and the way we react is really from memories, past experiences, beliefs, and perceptions that we hold. And so when I bring the focus back to myself, then what I'm doing in that moment is I'm saying I'm taking control of how I choose to experience this moment. And so I move from a place of feeling like a victim and life is happening to me to a place of, let me see how I can shift and navigate through these times. And so there's 4 aspects that I want to cover here. And the first one is to hold a higher consciousness of yourself. Now, this is an important element because, as I mentioned, it helps me to move from victim to a place of mastery. And often when something happens to us, in the many different facets that I mentioned earlier, then we tend to find ourselves in a place of low energy, a little bit of weakness, almost spiritually weak. I'm not talking physically, and the capacity highly reduced. But when I hold a higher consciousness of myself, and within BK teachings, it is the understanding that I am a spiritual being, that I'm eternal being of light, a soul, then I begin to put myself in a different place. And as I begin to shift consciousness in this way, I'm able to tap into different possibilities and potentials so that I expand my vision, I expand the framework with which I find myself. And I'm not coming from a small perspective, but I really broaden my horizons. And so that gives me access to many various tools and understanding to tap into, and then obviously to draw from that. And so it's a simple process, this aspect of holding a higher consciousness, because it's not like rocket science. It's just creating that awareness. I am a spiritual being. I am separate from this body. I am eternal. And just that in itself, if I create as a practice not just when difficult things happened, but I create a daily practice of this. It gives me the capacity to draw from that energy that I cultivate as my reality. And so not just a concept. So in that moment, because I think that's key, in that moment, can I, to some extent, transcend the physical triggers or experiences that life is bringing me, come back to that place of my original state of being, and then see what's the best way that I can respond or move out of that space. The second one is give yourself permission to let go of the past. I think this is easier said than done. Unfortunately, what happens is we tend to remember the things of the past that have not been such good experiences. The good experiences we do recall, but not as often as the not so good experiences. And on some level, when we revisit the past and we hang on to the things that have happened to me, the bad luck perhaps that I've had, or sometimes we'd say my bad karma, all of these kind of thoughts and beliefs and perhaps indoctrinations, to some extent, they keep me stuck. They keep me held down. And so giving myself permission to let go is really about saying, okay, the past has brought me to this place, but there's certain aspects of the past, in fact, most of it, that doesn't support me in terms of where I am at now. And it's not that it's holding on to me, but I'm holding on to it. And the thing about recalling the bad memories of the past, the bad experiences, is that every time you remember it, you relive that experience. And so you reinforce the trauma, the fear, the uncertainty. And so just bringing myself again to that place of my original nature as a soul is peace, love, power, purity, happiness. I might not feel it right now, but I have full faith that that is my original nature, my original state of being. And no matter what happens or whatever happened, I don't want those qualities to be overshadowed by a few experiences. And if we think about it, it's a few experiences that sometimes hold us hostage for years and years on end. And so do I have the courage to let go? And why I say courage is because if I'm letting go of the past in that way, means I'm giving myself permission to let go of the hurt and the trauma and whatever it is that I might have faced difficulties. And in doing so, then I can't feel sorry for myself anymore, because I'm now stepping into a place of empowerment. I'm stepping into a place of conscious choice, which makes me responsible for how I'm going to move from this moment on. And so sometimes the resistance to let go is because we still want to give ourselves permission to feel sorry for ourselves, but that just perpetuates a low energy, which then takes me away from the purity that I hold within myself. And then the third one, cultivating an attitude of gratitude. And this is such a powerful, powerful practice. I don't know if anyone here has ever or does keep a gratitude journal. And I remember Sister Jayanti once in one of her classes speaking about every day, if you can write 100 things that you're grateful for. And 100 is a lot of things, but by the end of it, one is just felt with the experience of fullness within the self. So the little things, it doesn't have to be major major decisions and experiences in my life that I'm grateful for. But the fact that perhaps I opened my eyes today and I felt well. You know, I had a plate of food today, the most basic, the most simple. Or I met a friend and we had a wonderful conversation, and there was such a beautiful insight that I gained from that. So what happens when I begin to cultivate this kind of attitude? I start to train myself to reframe things, to relook at things, to reposition myself. And I'm beginning to move out of that habitual kind of thinking that the glass is half empty, to always seeing what's the gift, what's the lesson, what's the moment of joy that's being brought to me right here, right now. You know, sometimes even taking a moment in nature and, you know, watch a butterflying, and a moment of joy. So it's not big things, but it's moment by moment. Can I create an attitude? And it's an attitude. Attitude is deeper than just thinking. It holds a powerful energy as well. And my attitude will inform my thinking also. So if I hold an attitude of things always going wrong, things always happening to me, even when the most amazing thing is in front of me, I won't see it in that way, because my attitude is almost plugged into negativity or seeing the loss in things, rather than opening the self to seeing what's the gift or the beauty that a moment has to offer me. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't tried, to just create a gratitude journal, so that every day you spend 5 minutes. You don't have to do 100 every day. If you can, that would be great. But even if you can just choose 5 things to be grateful for every day, so that at the end of the day, you go to bed with a feeling of attainment, with a feeling of something amazing having unfolded in my day. And that in itself creates a feeling of, I look forward to tomorrow, because what's the gifts that going to come to me tomorrow? And then the fourth one I want to talk about is to continually challenge your perceptions and embrace newness. So very often we might cultivate these attitudes of gratitude. We might try working on positive thinking and holding that higher perspective. But sometimes there's that little voice of doubt that comes in that says, no, this is not going to work. What are you thinking? You're not strong enough. You know, these kind of thoughts, and they really come in the mind in the form of thoughts that are trying to pull you down. And that's normal, because we've over many lifetimes, you know, our self-respect has diminished to quite a large extent. And so the sense of I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, I have to struggle first to get anything, are old perceptions that I've been holding. They are beliefs that I've cultivated, that I've created, that I've internalized, and I've made it my reality. So some of them have been self-created and self-imposed. Others have been internalized from other people, society, you know, just the way I was brought up. And so I find it's important for my growth that I continually challenge my perceptions and beliefs, because those are the things that become the stumbling blocks to my moving into a new direction. And it's important to recognize and acknowledge, not to feel bad about it, because they've just been supports for me over time in some way or the other, to make sense of the world, to make sense of things, to navigate. But when I put myself in that higher consciousness, then those kind of supports don't hold any value for me anymore, because my support structure also changes. So for example, you break your leg. I mean, I hope no one broke their leg. But if you break your leg, then for a while you might have to be on crutches. And once your leg is healed, you don't continue to use those crutches. You discard them because you have the capacity to stand on both feet. And so it's like that we've created crutches, but they're no longer useful for us. So why do we keep holding on to it? Let us just drop it with a lot of love, not with feeling, how could I have been so silly? How could I have been so stupid? Because those again are old perceptions and beliefs. But it's about then looking at things with a lot of love and compassion and patience and saying, okay, this is where I find myself now. These are the things that I've believed, but now I have a whole different mindset. I have a different set of parameters. And so how do I want to navigate through that? So I wanted to share these because I found they've been helpful for me, not just not just during the time when I went through that loss that Raksha mentioned before of my mom passing away, but it's something that I've cultivated or created as a practice for me for a long time, a good few years, as focuses, as just different way of approaching life. So that when the difficulties come, it's not so much of a struggle, but it becomes easier to navigate and trust in the process as well, because I've experienced it previously. So I'm going to stop there for now and just see if there's any questions, and then we'll go into a short little reflective exercise. But I'd like to just invite anyone, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask, or if you want to put it in the chat, that's also fine. So either unmute or in the chat, up to you. Anyone? Okay. So doesn't look like anyone has any questions. So then let's move on, because we're talking about a new year. I thought we could just create kind of focuses for the self. So not so much New Year's resolutions, as I mentioned earlier, but take a few moments to self-reflect. And I'm going to put up a slide now, and I'm going to give you a good few minutes to just reflect on it first. But there's 5 little blocks here, and I want you to look at all of them, read all of them, and then see which 2 speaks most to you at this point in time, which ones resonate with you most, which ones would you like to hold as a focus. So looking at sorry, that's the music that came on beforehand. Looking at these 5 blocks, just take a moment, see which one works for you, resonates with you, speaks to you in some way. And then I'd like you to just do your own reflection. So for example, the first one, I believe I have the ability to create something wonderful. So right now I choose to begin by, and then you can fill in the gaps of what it is you'd like to begin by doing, and so on with the others. So I'm going to give you like about 8 to 10 minutes. So do take your time. And like I said, see what speaks to you and resonates with you. And then we will explore them a little bit further. So I'm just going to put my video off for now. I'll put some music in the background. So do take your time and enjoy it. And remember, you're coming from that place of higher consciousness, coming from a broader perspective. So when that little voice of doubt comes in, just quietly push it aside for that moment and re-emerge the qualities that we mentioned earlier. Okay, so a few minutes, just explore these for yourself. So I'm hoping you had enough time and that you might have got some idea of what it is that you'd like to create as something new to hold, perhaps as a focus for the next few days, for the month, or maybe even for the year. But I'm curious if anyone would like to share what might have come up for them. If you feel inspired, maybe some insight or some realization or some gifts that exercise might have brought, please feel free to unmute, or as mentioned before, put it in the chat. Okay, we have a quiet group today, which is also fine. Could it be the heat, maybe? Anyway, that's fine.
Sister Nita, I want to be more brave.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Carol. The fact that you unmuted and shared first already says that you are being brave. So great, thanks.
Real big brave.
No, it's the small steps that takes you to the big one. So it's okay. This is the first step. So fantastic. You're on your way. Anyone else? Lakshmi is putting something in the chat. I believe I have the ability to create something wonderful. So right now I choose to begin by bringing positive thoughts to my mind and appreciate and be grateful for all my blessings. Very, very lovely, clear focus. Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you.
And also, have the opportunity, God has given me the opportunity to help others with spontaneous love without any expectations. And that's what came to me in my mind. Thanks a lot.
Great. Sometimes it's true. The first thing that pops in your mind is like the deepest stirrings of the soul. And then sometimes we just brush that aside. I remember Daddy Janki, who passed away 2021 last year, I think, the year before, saying that when you have a powerful thought, then you put it into practice immediately, because that voice of doubt will then reduce the power that that thought holds in that moment. So thank you, Lakshmi. Is there anyone else?
Yes, good afternoon. I wish to share that I believe I have the ability to create something wonderful. And that for me is keeping my life as simple as I reasonably can. Because I think when my life is simpler, there will be very little clutter and rush in my life. There will be harmony, and I'll not be able to entertain negative thoughts.
Wow, that's such beautiful insights, Maseke. Thank you for sharing. You know, it's true, simplicity does hold such power, and just you connecting the dots for that. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay. If not, then, Sherry's put something. I believe I have the power to shape my life. So right now I choose to be happy and grateful in spite of. Wonderful. Again, you know, it's like just changing focus, just shifting perspective. Thanks, Sherry. That's great. Kamla's also put something. I believe I have ability to create a benevolent attitude towards self and others. Wow. Lovely, lovely. Simple but deep and profound, that holds such depth and maturity. Those and then Bianca's put something. So right now I choose to bring into my life more moments of quiet stillness into my mind and into my thoughts. This is myself resting my body together with my consciousness to breathe. Thank you, Bianca. I know you've been going through a little bit of challenge with your health, so fantastic. I love this idea of quiet stillness. So I'm sure it will support you in amazing ways. Okay, so I want to share, Pravita is saying, relax the mind, not overthinking and expanding on the past. Yeah, it's true. You know how quickly in a split second you're in the past and dredging up all of those things. And so practice of not overthinking is a powerful tool to help with that. So thank you for sharing, Pravita, as well. Okay, please do keep putting it in the chat if you feel inspired. But I did want to share something by Dari Janki. And I've mentioned her a few times, but this is something that I really feel is such a beautiful awareness and way to live one's life. So she speaks of detachment. Detachment is not a question of becoming separate from the material world, but of simply remaining conscious of yourself as a spiritual being whilst being in the world and playing your part. And that's from Dari Janki. And so I love it. And I think it's something that I've embraced over the years. Once I understood detachment, I think I had a misunderstanding before. I don't think I fully understand it, but I have gotten a deeper understanding than what I've had. But it's this idea that I choose to engage from a different perspective. I choose to create distance between what's happening out there and what I'm holding within myself. And so just drawing from Dari, she's been an amazing teacher for me in many ways. And so from her book, Wings of Soul, there's just something that I'd like to share that she writes. If you ever get a chance to buy this book, we normally have it at our centers, or you can order it online. I would highly recommend it. It's got just simple truths that hold such deep wisdom. And sometimes I just open up to any page because it's written in like prose and it's spot on to what I need in that moment. So it's called Wings of Soul. I'm doing a little bit of marketing here at the same time, but I find it's been something that I always keep close to me ever since, I started on the spiritual path. But she talks about in response to a question that was put forth to her. And the question was, what are the efforts I need to make on the spiritual path? And Dari says, the first effort is to become true to yourself. This is because when there is spiritual honesty, it is easy to receive help from God. Taking God's help is the beautiful endeavor of these times. However, only an experienced soul will know how to take real help from God. You have to know how to take his hand and place it on your heart and head. This means paying complete attention to the quality of your thoughts and feelings and grounding yourself in your identity as an eternal spiritual being. This fills you with the qualities of your original divinity, peace, love, bliss, and might. Feeling God's hand on both your head and heart in this way allows you to stay completely centered and aligned with your highest self. Even in the midst of total chaos, inner or outer, you are able to remain responsible for every thought, word, and action. The ability to act from such an elevated state of awareness, even in difficult situations, is proof that you are making the right efforts. Blaming others and considering them the cause of your distress and unhappiness is carelessness. It leads only to feeling disheartened. Keep the heart and mind clear, that is, honest, then your efforts will bring real success. So I love this because it's just a beautiful recipe of how I'd like to live my life. making sure that my mind is clean and clear, nothing unnecessary, nothing extra, nothing going into the past. And if it does go there, how can I bring myself back to that place of quiet stillness again, and reconnecting with that source who holds everything that I need, and then keeping my heart free from any negativity towards anyone helps to keep me light, helps to keep me free and happy, in spite of, as someone said, in spite of, I think it was Sherry. And so those were just some thoughts that I wanted to share with you. But I think now would be a lovely time to go into a meditation and just center ourselves in that highest positioning and take power from that source. Okay, so if Carol could put the slide for the meditation now. So I invite you to take this moment to step into that place of quiet stillness within. And in this space, I become aware of myself as a spiritual being, a point of light energy, of pure consciousness that holds the energy of love, of peace, of truth. And in the quiet space that I've created in my mind, I feel myself being anchored in these qualities. Everything else fades into the background. All that remains is this awareness that I am light. And so as you hold this, feel that energy radiate from the center of your forehead throughout your entire body, out into the room and into the world. In this moment, I feel the sense of power, of spiritual strength and capacity that I hold when I remain anchored in who I am. That's in the state of being that I can very easily and naturally turn to the source of all things good. So with the pure power of my thoughts and this awareness that I'm holding, I bring into my awareness the presence of God's light, a light that embraces unconditionally, a light that supports me in unlimited ways, a light that only holds benevolence. And so for a moment, I imagine that this light is like the ocean, and I immerse myself in the waves of this light. And I'm bathed by the beautiful energy of God's presence. I am held. I am safe. I am full. And it's here that I feel my eternal relationship with the divine. It is here that I feel his loving presence, a gentle support, a beautiful guidance for every step of my journey. And so today, let me give myself this gift, the gift of God's presence in a very tangible way in my life as I navigate through this new year with new zeal, with new enthusiasm, with a new perspective, but most importantly, with my companion, the one who will never leave my side, even if I sometimes choose to step away. So let me hold this pure energy, this presence, the fullness of this moment, as I very gently bring myself back to the awareness of this present moment. And being seated in your room in this chair, I invite you to come back to the here and now, but holding on to that purest energy and connection. Om Shanti. So thank you very much. It was lovely spending this time with you, and I'm sure we'll see more of each other shortly. Take care.
Thank you, Sister Nita. Thank you very much for the blissful meditation. Oh, it was so nice. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you,
God
Nita.
bless.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful way and and how it's all about the way I look. And I love that image of the girl with the tumble down hair and the other with the wind in her face. So really, if we can just look at our perspectives, and also, thank you for sharing, especially, your methods that you've used and had helped you so powerfully in these last 2 years and continues to help you. And that is that higher perspective and that higher consciousness, letting go and giving yourself permission to let go of the past and cultivating that attitude of gratitude. And then, looking at how can I challenge my old perspectives and embrace the new, because definitely it's a new year. And thank you for encouraging us to work through for ourselves some ways in which we can begin that through that workshop as well. So I hope everyone takes time out to really allow your different aspects that you had chosen, like Nita had shared. It's not just about a new year resolution, but a new attitude. And so what new attitude, and thanks to everyone for sharing. So thank you so much, Nita, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend. Stay
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you, Sister Raksha. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
you.
Have a lovely week.